Molly, Vic, welcome to our home.
Thank you.
And thank you for being here with us. And we're just going to have a little chat about you guys and your relationship and some of the difficult things that I know you've been through. And I really appreciate you being here.
We're happy to be here.
Yes.
I was thinking on the way down, I'm like, I feel like this is a free therapy session.
We're not therapists,
Well,
but we're really good listeners.
I don't know. I do the last part sometimes. Not the but the pissed. I was pissed this morning.
the pee.
So helpful. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, we'll do an intro before this, so they'll know a little bit about you, but they won't know about you guys as a couple necessarily. Great. So maybe tell a little bit of your story, like how you guys met and how many kids, kids you have, and give us the whole rundown.
Okay. So Molly, I was a music dance theater major at BYU in Provo, Utah. And I got a job after school in Los Angeles at a performing arts academy. So I moved down there, didn't really know anybody. And about 2 weeks later, I met Vic. I saw him across the parking lot. And he
checking her out.
Yes, he was checking me out. I could tell. And my first thought when I saw him was, small town wrestler, not my type.
Whoa.
He just kind of short, stocky, like Iowa farm boy. Like nothing wrong with that, but I just thought, I'm so glamorous and he's maybe not. I don't know. I'm a snob. So he had just finished.
Not entirely inaccurate.
Yes. Well, just laying the foundation. So Vic had just finished law school at Pepperdine and was
studying for the California bar, which is an intense experience. And when I met her, I thought, okay,
hang on.
I had as I was for the study period, I'd decided no dating, but I had made a list of girls that I was going to take out after I was done studying, and she definitely made the list.
Nice.
Yes. So he had an actual list.
That's very disciplined.
It's kind of a lawyerly thing to do.
Yeah, it is a lawyerly thing to do. So you made the list, Molly.
So I made the list because he saw me in the parking lot of our church across the way. And I met him, was introduced by a mutual friend, and I found out he was finishing law school, and I thought, okay, that's interesting. And
more glamorous than the wrestler thing.
Right, from Iowa. More glamorous than a wrestler. And we met up again a few weeks later. He had been studying late into the night, and I had the brilliant idea, which I call it a very BYU girl thing to do, which was to make cookies with my friend and take them around to various boys from our church congregation.
Oh, that's
and Vic
sweet.
Was on the list. So
he made the list as well.
Yes. Because my roommate kept talking about him. She kept saying, oh my gosh, Vic Jackson, he is such a gentleman. He is such a great guy. And I knew she didn't necessarily, like him or want to date him per se. She just was a fan. And so this was running in the back of my mind. So I thought, let's take some to Vic. So I go to take some to him and his study partner, and they were just finishing for the evening. And as we were leaving the building to go into the parking lot, he had an old CJ5 Jeep, no doors, no windows. Mm-hmm. And he asked if I wanted to go on a ride in the Jeep. And he asked me and my friend Tracy. And when Vic wasn't looking, I looked at Tracy and I made this motion like, you're not coming. It's just me.
You decided that I was cute.
Yes. When we sat down and gave them the cookies, I had decided, oh, he's cuter than I remember. So I kind of switched in my mind like, oh, maybe I like this guy.
Did he tell you that CJ5s are notorious for rolling over at like 30 miles an hour?
No. Do you know that? All he said was it was the precursor to the Wrangler.
Okay.
I'm like, okay. So Tracy's like, no, I'm fine. I'll just go home. No big deal. You guys go. So we hopped in the car.
And
Do you
I
wanna-
figured out, if we're going to go for a drive, let's do it right. So we
Thank you, Molly.
went for a drive down the PCH,
Okay.
which absolutely beautiful. It's 10:30 at night.
That's the Pacific
Pacific
Coast Highway.
Coast
Thank you.
Highway.
Mhm.
And BYU. I mean, I know
Brigham
what it
Young
is because we live in
University.
Utah. Thank you.
Provo, Utah.
Provo, Utah. Okay, go ahead.
So it's a full moon. It's a warm summer night. It's July. And we pulled over at Topanga Beach and walked down to the water, and the water was perfect. The 2-week warm current that California gets every year or so.
And there was a full moon.
Yes, full moon. Santa Monica Pier in the distance. And Molly said, I want to get in.
No, I swear he's the one that said he wanted to get in.
we
I
still fight
promise.
about
We
this.
always fight about this.
We fight about how we met, actually. So this is perfectly
We
normal.
don't fight about how we met. We disagree on when we met. You don't even remember the first time.
Oh.
And
Maybe I'm a snob too, Molly.
And Vic's like
Bad
most of
memory
the,
is
I
different
didn't even
than-
remember.
if Vic's like most of the men I know that was the only thought going through my mind based on the story so far is like, oh, you had to go skinny dipping. So
See? So
I
you're on my
guarantee-
side that it was his
I
idea.
guarantee it was your idea, Vic. No question.
Finally.
You were thinking it
That
the whole
makes
time
so
at
much
least.
sense.
But you're forgetting that I was a good Mormon boy.
Yeah. Okay.
So, one
But
of
Molly
the,
was a good Mormon girl too, right?
true.
A little
If-
feisty.
Yes,
You're a little
definitely.
feisty for sure.
Yeah.
But definitely one of the rules
Right.
for a good Mormon is you don't take off your clothes on the first date.
I thought that was a pretty general rule on
That-
most
that-
dates,
that
but I mean,
probably
but I
is,
get even for
probably.
Mormons, it's probably
Yeah.
a little more strict of a rule.
So the point is, we met
took off
briefly
our
in the
clothes.
parking lot. The second time was an unplanned drop-in visit, which led to this impromptu drive. And then Vic says, I really want to jump in. So he takes off his shirt, rolls up his jeans, and jumps in the water. So I'm standing there watching like, oh, okay. And I proceeded to take off my shirt. I had on a very modest full coverage black bra. It was not lacy or see-through, black. And we went swimming in the ocean on our first impromptu date. And it was so
Aw,
romantic.
That is romantic.
And we were totally flirting, and he was like pulling me under the water, and the lights and the palm trees silhouetted against the mountain. It was
Full
like a
moon.
movie.
It was
Yeah.
over
It sounds
after
like
that.
a movie.
And yeah, so we walked back to the Jeep, and I could tell he was trying so hard to look straight ahead, like, don't look at her boobs, don't look at her boobs. And which is, I've never worn a bikini really in my life. I've never been comfortable doing that, wearing two-piece and
Mhm.
showing my tummy. And I could not believe that I did that, or that I was comfortable enough. So
Oh,
that's kind of how we met, and a lawyer and a performer and a rendezvous at the beach. And we
A
walked
love
back
for
to his Jeep,
adventure.
and he had his surfboard and like towels and stuff that he would just keep back there. So I wrap his towel around me, shimmy out of my shorts, put my dry shirt back on, and then put his hat on so that my hair isn't crazy in the wind. And we drive home, and I'm just thinking, oh my gosh, what just happened? I want to marry this guy. And he walked me to the door, and I'm like holding my
his towel.
towel so tightly and like one-handed hugging him. I'm like, do not drop this. Oh my gosh. And I went inside, and I woke up my roommate, Jessica, the one that kept saying, he's such a great guy. And I'm like, Jessica, you'll never believe
What
I'm going to
happened?
marry Vic Jackson. And, I mean, yeah. So he proposed on that same beach under a full moon, like 10 months later. It was about this time of
Yeah.
year, like April,
March.
second week of April. Oh, okay, March. Anyway,
Nice.
so that is how we met. That is
You all
our
have something in
beginning.
common. Sam was a dance major too. She got a scholarship to the U.
So you sing and dance like me, but you have curly dark hair,
And
which
you
is
have
what
beautiful blonde hair.
Vic always wanted to marry someone with dark curly hair.
So
Well,
yeah,
I was
Pat
dark.
probably wanted a blonde too.
I had dark. My like dream girl I had envisioned was dark hair, dark eyes. You know.
There you go.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And now, fast forward. So, how long have you guys been married?
15 years.
15 years next month.
Congratulations!
Thank
You made it
you.
over the. They say the 7-year itch starts. Then the 10 years more the hump. Just so you know, then you start. Things get better. Yeah. Boom.
We took our hump year off.
Yeah, we did. We split up in our 10th year of
Did you?
marriage.
Yeah.
For a whole year. Signed divorce
On
papers.
purpose or
Yes.
what? Okay, it wasn't strategically like it's 10 years. Let's take a break.
Oh no, it was like I can't. I'm
I
done.
can't live with you.
Yeah, I can't be with you anymore.
Yeah.
And I was really done. And
She
then
was
we-
wrong though.
That
I
was
was.
about our time.
I
that
was
we-
wrong too.
That we had a really
Difficult time.
yeah
10.
yeah.
You're 10.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you guys
I
want
guess
to talk
that
about
was-
it?
Yeah.
So
I feel like we should do our
the
backstory.
precursor.
Yeah,
of
do the
the-
backstory.
of what we've
Been through.
endured. Yeah.
Yeah.
So after 2 years of marriage, Molly got pregnant and was not quite ready, but embraced it. And we had a beautiful little girl, blonde, Lucia Isabella, actually. She had so much hair that as she crowned, I thought Molly was giving birth to a cat.
She'd had a ton of hair, and it was blonde, which is really rare.
That is rare.
And
And I had major postpartum depression. Major.
I'm sorry. That really sucks.
And we were not financially thriving. It was stressful kind of from the beginning.
Yeah.
Like day one, student loan debt, law school debt. I'm bringing in the big bucks as a performer. Like it. And then this pregnancy with Lucy really wasn't planned. It was kind of like, I truly remember thinking, let's not take birth control just to see what happens. Like, I don't know. We'll
Like maybe
just-
I can't. Like maybe it'll take a while.
yeah,
Or maybe
and I don't think I really want this right now,
Yet,
but it's
but-
kind of the next thing you do. But I mean, we knew not. I don't know. I was
it happens.
going to say we were young and dumb, but you were 32 or
was-
33, and I was 26. So we should have known a little bit better. But
Well, so being, a performer, is that where some of the postpartum came from? The not being able to do it, you loved, or-
that's a good question. I had an eating disorder
Mhm.
that started in junior high school.
As a lot of
And-
performers do, especially dancers.
Yes, I was a gymnast. I was a cheerleader,
Oh,
a
yeah.
dancer, all the things.
all the things that lead to that.
5'1", curvy. How do I fit in this body and do all of this? So yeah, a lot of anxiety, depression, mixed with the eating disorder, and mixed with being this strong, ambitious woman with dreams, but stuck in between all these worlds of like, do I have a family and do I be a good Mormon, or am I a crazy free-spirited actor? And I just lived in a lot of crazy mental space
Mhm.
and just predisposition in my family. So, and I had no idea of what motherhood really was.
I don't think anybody really knows what it is until you're there and you're like, oh my God, I am completely responsible for this little human.
We
And
all-
I never grew up wanting to be a mom. It was not even.
Me, I'm the same.
We
But
all
I got
have-
knocked up at 19, so that's a whole other story.
we all
Mm.
have ideas of what we might be like as a parent, especially when we're judging our own parents. We're like, well, I'm not going to do that when I have kids, but that's about as far as it goes, I think.
I know. So, yes, so that a lot of the postpartum was just tied into
Everything.
my physiology, my years of mental training of obsessive thoughts, and yeah, so it was a perfect storm of
Mhm.
and the stress, like I said, of finances and blending families.
we're
Hot mess over here, really.
and we legitimately are very different.
Yes, we are very
Um,
different
if
people.
It's not obvious.
Well, it is kind of. Anybody watching the video can tell your differences. Like, she likes to talk into the mic, you don't.
Yes.
She
Yes.
has hair, you don't.
Yes.
You both have nice blue eyes.
Yes, that's true.
We have some core things that match up, so it works, but it takes work to work.
So back to Lucy.
So back to Lucy. So we had Lucy, beautiful, beautiful girl, and just before her second birthday, how much do we get into in detail?
As much as you're comfortable with.
So we were leaving church, and Molly, being a wonderful good mom, had prepared some snacks, got Lucy buckled into her car seat, and handed her a little Tupperware of apples.
Mm-hmm.
And Lucy took a bite and began to choke. And so Molly ran around and got her out. And I was across the parking lot. And Molly yelled for me, and I ran over. And Molly was holding her and pounding on her back, and understandably panicked. And I took Lucy and said, "It's going to be okay," because I couldn't imagine that it wouldn't be okay. And we did the Heimlich, and we pounded on her back, and nothing was working. There's a fire station right next door, so we ran to the fire station, and I carried her over my arm, hoping that running would jiggle it out, that the apple piece would fall out. Got to the fire station doors, and it was locked. Firemen were out shopping, doing typical fireman stuff.
It's not often the emergency comes to their
Door.
building.
Yeah.
It's super rare.
Yeah. And so after pounding on the door for a couple minutes, somebody came into the parking lot, I guess as I was pounding, or
I started yelling for help.
Yeah.
And so people started flooding out from the church building. We had doctors, nurses. We had the head of Summit County Search and Rescue, who happened to be in the church building. And people were asking for a pocket knife, and who could do a trach, and who has the smallest hands so we can reach down there and try to get it out. And it was chaotic. And they started doing CPR. The apple piece was just lodged right here before the lung split, just in such a way that it was too deep for
Anything to get
yeah. And so someone called 911. The paramedics and firemen came, and they intubated her. They pushed the apple piece with this metal flexi thing into one lung, and then I laid on the cement in shock. I was losing all feeling in my limbs, and Vic kind of prayed over Lucy, and people were helping, and eventually the life flight helicopter landed, and they whisked her away. And Vic hopped in a car with our friend Brad Hale, who's a doctor, and then a couple of men carried me, and they were so sweet. They draped I had kind of a shorter skirt on, and they draped their suit coat over my legs so they could carry me. And they were so respectful. And I hopped in a different car with Susan Hale, Brad's wife. They had driven separately, and we raced down to Primary Children's down the canyon, and somehow Vic and Brad beat the life flight helicopter. That's how fast they were driving.
Wow.
And I just laid in the back seat, and my friend Claudia just held me in her lap and was stroking my hair. And I asked her to sing to me to help me just breathe. And she had the worst voice. I told her to stop. And long story short, we got to the hospital, and she was on life support for 4 days, but her brain damage was just too severe. And she became an organ donor. Her liver went to a 6-month-old baby girl, and her kidneys went to a 35-year-old father with 4 children. And we drove home to an empty house after 2.5 years of an already rocky start to a marriage with 2 very different people and blended families and blended views on our religion. And we even are different politically. And it was hell. There are really no words.
I mean, that's I'm sure for every parent listening or watching, that is my absolute worst fear. Even though my kids, I'm sorry, I'm breaking up. You guys are so strong. And my kids are grown up, It's still my worst fear. So how the hell do you navigate? I mean, the rocky start, and now you have this huge tragedy. I mean, fuck.
Yeah.
It's surprisingly, and you hear a lot of trauma survivors talk about this, but there is this depth of spiritual awakening that happens when everything that you thought matters completely is gone. And all that's left is just pure spirit. I just remember thinking I would live in a tent the rest of my life if I could have my daughter back. And how much I weigh and how nice my car is and how all these things, they vanished just in an instant. And it's almost liberating and freeing. And we had some incredible spiritual experiences that almost can't be put into words. Well, Vic has one that can be put into words that is so sweet. Will you tell them? Will you tell us the thoughts and impressions? Well, you had a couple about the mundanity. What's the word? Mundaneness of life means more than.
As we're in the hospital, I'm trying to figure out what's going on and questioning what's going to happen next and how this is going to play out. And I prayed, and if there was ever a time that I needed answers to prayer, that was certainly it. And the first answer to my prayers was, Vic, you take care of Molly, and I will take care of Lucy. And that
gets me.
That gets me too.
That's kind of been that's been my guide for the last 11 years.
This summer will be 11 years. Lucy would be 13 this June.
And as Molly was saying, it became clear, like
what's important and what's not important.
Yeah.
And that she wasn't going to make it, but that him taking care of me gave him a purpose and something to do. And I clearly needed to also take care of him. But that is where your question comes in. Like, how in the hell do you get through this?
Yeah.
And when one husband or one spouse is suffering or depressed or sick, you take care of them. And then you kind of take turns. But when you are both completely shattered, how do you
pick up those pieces?
I mean,
because we've taken turns. As you guys know, Patty's dad passed a week ago, and so we're, having some grief. But yeah, we've taken, my dad passed a few years ago, and Patty would pick up the pieces. Mm-hmm. But yeah, how do you pick up the pieces together?
Well,
I think there weren't any pieces to pick up.
Yeah, maybe not.
We kind of just held each other and cried a lot. And, they say 80% of couples who lose a child separate or divorce.
They do. Yeah, I've read that too.
But what you don't hear about as much is the 20%
you
that
don't
make it. And they have a deeper unspoken bond and depth that it's just this fortification of your relationship and this understanding. And no one will ever love your child like you do. No one will ever know what it was like to be there that day when she choked and to live through that. So I do think we have that. But that being said, it's been ugly.
Yeah.
I mean, those first days were very tender. We were in a cocoon, and our community and our friends and family are angels among us, and they are forever weaved in our story and our narrative and our lives. And it was Memorial Day weekend when she passed, which meant the cemetery was going to be closed on Memorial Day, like not open for business, for burials. Yeah. But she was still on brain support, but she was technically brain dead. But we had to get the plot purchased before. I mean, it was this whole thing. And they had to fax the cemetery and say she's brain dead, but she's still alive. So she's allowed to purchase a plot, even though we don't have the death certificate. I mean, it was this whole thing. All of that is to say we had friends go pick out the burial spot. We couldn't even go. We didn't want to leave her.
Yeah.
And they picked out where all three of us will be buried. Lucy's plot is double deep. So I'll be buried on top of her, and then Vic will be next to us. And so all 3 of our names are on the headstone. So when I want to murder him, I am like, this is literally set in stone.
Yeah.
And we have to make this work. Damn it. You know,
Set
like,
in stone.
I know we're talking a lot. You guys aren't.
No, this is what it's.
There's so much. It's so. But there's another
Keep
thing
going.
I alluded to about the hospital. Vic had that kind of epiphany, that answer. But the other one that he's talked about a little that he felt was that we really underestimate the beauty and purpose and power of everyday life and just the mundane things that we
Totally.
have to do. And just the privilege to have a body and to make our favorite cup of coffee. And well, that's a privilege all the time, but you know, just to drag our butts off the couch and all of those things that we take for granted.
Do you think that I think when you're going through something like that, that the natural tendency is to kind of just pull the covers over your head and say, I don't want anybody to bother me. I don't want to talk to anybody. I just want to, but when you have the grace to allow somebody to help you and to love you, I think that's where that 20% comes from, because it's easier just to crawl into a shell.
That's where Molly saved us. We've grieved differently, and your comment makes me think about how I've benefited from the way that Molly grieved. She's obviously very open and reserved, and it takes me a bit to open, and
it takes him a few days to know what he's feeling.
a couple of weeks.
He's
usually.
like, oh, that's why. And
You
I am
grew
like
up
instantly.
You grew up on a farm, right? You're supposed to be tough. You handle your stuff, and
yeah, that's definitely the.
Did you grow up on a farm?
No,
Not on a farm, but
Yeah.
that was the culture in my family. It was like, emotions. What do they have to do with anything?
his
Tough it
dad
out.
was an agricultural appraiser, so he
Okay.
appraised
and-
farms
Okay.
and ranches, and they lived in a small town until high school. But
yeah,
just that
emotions.
emotions were a luxury, or
Well, they just weren't the point. You had to get up and get the work done, whatever work
sure.
your family had to do.
yeah. So we did go into that cocoon for a few weeks, and it was almost beyond my ability to ask for help. It was just a given fact that we needed help.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't eat. I don't think we cooked for ourselves for that whole summer. I mean, we were, whenever people ask for advice for what to do for my sister, she just lost a child, and I'm like, they are a child. You need to help them get in the shower, make them food, make them eat. And my parents stayed at our house for a week or so. They just had to hold our hands. It was so.
Every morning waking up, it was
Like having to face it
yeah.
again.
It was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh my
Again.
gosh, this is real. This is my life. It was a shock every single morning for months.
Couple of years, yeah.
Yeah.
So we did stay in that cocoon for a while, and our community was phenomenal. And Vic had to go back to work. I don't know how he did that. He had to basically put on an armor, whereas I sat and just gushed, and I started writing, and I had a blog, and I wrote through and processed my grief very vocally and publicly, which for me was healing and fitting to my personality. But it was just interesting to see how people responded to that and came out of the woodwork, and the kindness of strangers. Trauma changes your brain and your perspective and how you see the world and how you live. And like I was saying, it opened up this whole realm that I didn't know existed. Like, you hear people are kind, or you want to believe the world is good, but I was blown away by the gifts people sent, and the letters and the kindness. And it was,
Well, and part of the reason why that happened was because Molly was so open about her grief. She had started a blog a few months before Lucy passed away. It was the beginning of blogs, 2008, and
2006 was when,
No.
7 was when we started the blog. She died in 2000,
Okay,
whatever.
Yeah. So and Molly's a fantastic communicator and was able to talk and write about what she was experiencing and what we were experiencing. And it helped people to connect to her. And when it comes down to it, one of the things that we discovered is that, grief and loss are the same. We have different experiences and different specifics, but when your heart is broken, your heart is broken.
Yeah.
And we all experience that. And we can all relate to that. And Molly was so eloquent and so raw in the way that she did it, the way she expressed herself, that it allowed a lot of people to connect with her and with us as a family.
Do you think that do you think that helped you process what you were going through also?
Yeah, I think so. Sometimes it was hard because
I think he felt forgotten as the father, or left behind a little.
Sometimes I, like we were talking, it takes me a while to figure out what I'm feeling. So I didn't always know what I thought about what she would share. Sometimes it felt a little too raw.
Yeah, we have conversations too about just the podcast and what we share. And I'm very like you. What's funny is I don't know how I'm feeling, but I'm learning that. But I'm very open like you, like, oh, I know what I'm feeling. I'm going to share with everyone. Pat's a little more like, I don't know if you need to share all that.
Well,
so it's an interesting dynamic too with the loss and the grief, and then not being sure. So it's cool that you gave her the freedom to.
Oh, he doesn't have a choice with me.
Exactly.
That is true. That is true.
But I mean, some people could get pissed off, and that
well,
could be,
it was,
it.
He a little would.
There were times it was different. Yeah, different things. Part of my family culture as well, and my belief is like, okay, focus on, the good and what's important. And so sometimes when Molly would talk about the bad, I'm like, hold on, slow down, because we want to help people focus on the good. We want to help people focus on the positive.
Right. He would say, like, we're an example. We have to show people that there's hope, and there, and I'm like, no, I have to show people the truth of that.
The real
ugly. Yeah. And that was more in regards to religious, like, faith and things. But anyway.
But the same, the principle applied across the board. But so I had to learn to look at the ugly as well and understand that. And
it's not.
Do you think by kind of, I wouldn't say forced, but having it out there and agreeing that you're going to have to go with it, do you think that looking at that ugly helped you get to your own emotional, awareness quicker?
Yeah, I think so. Because I would read what Molly wrote and recognize, oh yeah, I feel that. And it definitely helped me to understand her better. Sometimes if I want to figure her out, I just look at Instagram or Facebook and
there she is.
Is that blog still out there?
It is. Yes. I don't update it often.
But still, can you share the name of it?
It's hopesmilingbrightly.com.
hopesmilingbrightly.com.
We'll put it in the
show notes.
And it is, we've heard from a lot of people who have read through and been touched and helped by the way Molly has expressed herself. And it's, there's some powerful essays.
You seem very proud of her.
I am.
She's very supportive of all my shenanigans.
Do you?
Not all, but
do you? you seem like you're a pretty patient guy. Would you attribute some of your success as far as getting through this and being in that 20%, in that you both kind of just allowed each other to grieve in your own way and didn't push each other too hard? Or because I think one of the things that happens in relationships is that people are like, okay, you've had enough time, you need to get over this, you need to do this, you need to do that. I mean, did you just...
Oh, we have our moments. We went to therapy. Well, we were going to marriage therapy before Lucy died. And then I remember sitting in her office after Lucy died and just sitting there and going, now what
What
was
are
our
we
problems
arguing
before?
about?
Yeah, it just felt so therapy helped. And I very much felt the frustration of like, come on, like not get over it, but just be more proactive.
Mhm.
And Vic has a long history of depression, and he's a very deep thinker and a very deep feeler. He cries probably once a day, and he's this tender, deep. And so I would get that attitude of like, not get over your daughter's death, because neither one of us are over it or ever will be.
You'll never
but
be
just
over that, though, yeah.
just get a little pizzazz in your step, or get, I mean, as the years went by, I mean, even still, like,
and I didn't realize how devastated I was. I was numb.
Yeah.
he would cry in his sleep. He would have dreams and cry in his sleep. It was just, I mean, it's your whole body, it's your brain, it's your spirit, and part of you is gone. It is unspeakable.
I had always wanted to be a father. That was my, what better thing could you do? So we were a little bit different in that regard.
Not that means you
our
missed her more, or that it was more painful.
But yeah,
like,
no,
but it was a shock to my identity.
Right.
It was a shock to both of us.
And I will say too, I remember thinking, oh, well, this maybe could be my out. I'm going to move to New York City. And this clearly was not meant to be. Like, God would not approve of this relationship if he were like, and then take your daughter and this
make it so
maybe
hard,
this is like, okay, you tried, but that was the wrong thing to be here.
So what changed your mind about that?
I'm so hot.
Yep.
We have always had a good sex life, which, I mean, you do think of all the things
help
that people deal with, financial things, and those top things that marriage cause divorce. And I'm like, oh, thank goodness we have that. So yes, you are cute.
Good in bed, apparently.
Good enough, at least.
But I don't know what did change my mind. I knew I just would process it. I would talk about it. I wasn't afraid. I think I wasn't afraid to say out loud to friends or family, maybe this is my out. Maybe I should move to New York. Maybe. So I think my boldness to say that is actually what helped me not do it, because you could work through it. I processed through it. Is this really what I want? Is that really what it means? Or maybe it means that our marriage brought this amazing girl into the world that now saved other people's lives.
Which
and
I love.
We need to stick through it. And it's just a decision, really. Like,
although of the
to stay.
20 plus coffee mugs that we have, you chose the New York one.
I didn't even choose
I chose
it.
that for her.
It
actually,
was meant to be.
That was cosmic for sure.
Yeah.
That was the path not taken.
Well, and
Yeah.
6 or 7 weeks after Lucy died, I got pregnant. And it was a little bit of a, whatever, I'm not in charge of my life. Whatever I want doesn't really matter. So let's just have some unprotected sex. And if we're supposed to have another baby, God can do whatever he wants, because it doesn't matter. I'm not in charge. I mean, I wasn't quite that mad and bitter, but it was very much I'm not in charge. So,
which is actually in life, I think,
what we all need to come to.
Truth, right? That is the truth. The truth is we think
that
we're in control. We think we're driving the ship, but the truth is we're not. We're just not.
So that also helped me to stay
Yeah.
trapped. Just kidding.
No, but that's how you feel sometimes. You're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And I can think of
So-
worse
Wow.
places to be trapped with your best friend who you have great sex with, and
That's
there's
true.
worse places for sure.
It's
New York's
true.
one.
You know, it's funny when you said,
That's true.
Just kidding. Anybody from
No.
New York, I like the city on short visits.
you know, it's funny when you said, that the idea that you and Vic will be the only people who really have been through that together, and you're the only ones who will love your children the way that you love them. Because that was one of the reasons I ended up back with Patty. I was like, I'm dating a bunch of schmucks, and they're not going to ever really love my kids. Like, if I give this another go, it's probably
Wait, is he the one that knocked you up at 19?
no. That
Oh.
was a different guy.
Okay.
No, but he adopted my son.
Oh.
So when we got married, our son.
Sorry.
Thank you for
Good work.
No, you're right.
We do the same thing. It's like, it's our blog. It's our family blog. It's not just your
I
blog.
do occasionally write.
Okay, well that
Okay.
makes
And
it
he's a great writer.
Yeah.
And people love hearing the male perspective.
exactly.
So yeah,
Have you started your book yet?
I have started my book.
Okay.
What are you writing it about?
Well, here's the ADD performer in me. I wrote so much material on my blog, and so many people were like, this needs to be a book. So at one point we actually had we had a lady, a publisher,
Uh-huh.
who collated it and kind of printed out all of my blog posts and was like, you have a book. And it's a timeline of grief in
Order.
real time.
Yeah.
Like which is pretty compelling and fascinating. So that one was called Letters to Lucy, which is completely sitting on a shelf. Since then, after Lucy passed away, we were asked to share our story a lot. So we speak, we've done a lot of firesides is the term in Mormon speak.
Mhm.
So, and as a singer too, I would speak and then I would sing a nice song, and it's kind of a nice thing, and it's a heavy topic, but we did that for years, and I would speak at youth conferences, and
Good for you
I would
guys.
speak at the U for like medical students and talk about grief. And I've been asked to speak for Intermountain Donor Services many times, which I love, and share Lucy's story. And
I heard you got a standing ovation just recently. Down at
did,
Bravenel
at
Hall.
Bravenel Hall. I spoke for the Transplant Games of America, which I'd never heard of until I was asked to speak. But it's a lot like the Paralympics, except all of the athletes are organ recipients or
Wow.
living organ donors.
Okay.
Wow.
So awesome.
So awesome.
So the more I was speaking and sharing my story, I realized I want to appeal to a broader audience. This is a heavy story, and it is hopeful, and like grief and loss and what it really looks like and how you can overcome it. But I want to be able to speak to corporate America and medical schools and all sorts of things, not just church groups and women retreats. So I blended my performing background and my love of being on stage and my writing and our crazy story, and have crafted a speech. It's called The Commodity of Connection.
I've heard a piece of that.
Yes, I think.
Yeah.
It's gone
Or
through many drafts.
Beginning iteration of the piece.
So it's about how, with all the commodities in the world, what we're really all starving for and what holds the most value is connection, which is what
Amen.
saved us when our daughter died and our community. So that all of that is to say, my book is about connection and why it's important, why it matters, what it looks like, what it is, but how to create it, like actual tools to create true, authentic connection with people in your lives, your spouse, your coworkers, your families.
What's your favorite? Or what do you think is the most powerful that you've had with Vic? Since this is more about couples and.
So my three main tools that
Yeah.
I like speak about, and although there's more in my book, but one is I call Speak the Unspeakable. That to create connection, you have to have the courage to speak what is truly unspeakable. In my case, Lucy. In someone else's case, maybe it's their addiction or their affair or their eating disorder, whatever it is. And the second tool I share is use your gifts to be a gift. And I love the stories I have that go with that, and the people who used their gifts to be a gift to us when Lucy died. It would blow you away.
Mhm.
And the third one is don't try to prove yourself, just try to be yourself. And that
love
creates connection.
all of those things so
Sure.
much.
And there's more too, but
I think, and I don't think you've developed this plot point or whatever you want to call it. But
speak up.
you,
Thanks, Molly. I'm
you-
usually the one who has this.
you mentioned, before, trapped, jokingly, but I think there's some truth to that idea of just being like, okay, this is where I am. In olden days, sailors would tie themselves to the rigging or to parts of the ship to be able to weather a storm.
Mhm.
And I think to a certain degree, we have done that as a couple and just said, okay, we are in this and we're not going to give up.
But I don't want to just endure it and be like thrashed around. I want to enjoy it.
Yeah.
So-
True. But I mean,
there are times.
yeah,
There are times.
and there are some, when you have rough times, sometimes that's all you can do is just hold on to that, like that commitment. And if you can hold on long enough, you can get back to the good times as long as you're not, totally giving up.
Yeah. So I think speaking the unspeakable within our relationship has been a huge, it can be awkward and painful and
It's definitely awkward
uncomfortable.
and painful and awkward.
but and it all kind of ties together, right? So Vic's gift of patience and wanting to take care of me, he's used that and has had to call upon that when I have spoken my unspeakable to him and things that were so painful, because you are both grieving together. It's so heavy and you just act out in crazy ways. I've met so many people who've become alcoholics or drug addicts or who can't go on. And
Yeah.
we've had our share of insane behavior, mostly me. But as he's used his gift of patience and love, as I've shared my unspeakable, he accepts me. I always am like, he is not going to accept me for who I am, that I'm this liberal Mormon and I don't play by the book and I'm just my own kind of Mormon, and he accepts me. I think it's been hard for him, but
On occasion.
but again, that third point of I'm just being myself. I don't have to prove, because I can only stay and make this work if I can be myself and be who I am.
And I think that's true of all. If any relationship is going to make it the long haul, in my opinion, you have to do that. You
Yes.
have to be able to be yourself.
And I have to just accept that he is like
A nerd.
How
a
he
nerd
is.
Yeah.
and a much more like believing Mormon. And
Well, he's more of a stickler for the rules you make.
yes,
Yeah.
He's a lawyer, so that's probably.
but he's fun and he loves adventure and he can throw down a good sassy comment or swear. And
I just can't talk well into a microphone.
No.
It's
Anyway,
hard. It takes
so-
practice.
I feel like we've been a little all over the map with this, and I know we need to close soon.
It's
but
perfect. It's been. I think it's been exactly what it was supposed to be.
yeah,
Yep. Agreed.
and I loved hearing your story and what you guys have been through and endured. And I don't know. I think to summarize, we had that foundation of that adventurous, magical night on the beach.
Mm-hmm.
And that truly is the antithesis of our relationship. Am I using antithesis right? For a writer and speaker, I sometimes am like, this word sounds like it fits, but I don't know the meaning of it. It's
I
the,
can't help you.
Well,
The opposite.
The thesis is the point, and the anti would be the opposite.
oh, okay. So no.
That's how I
The
understand. I could be
adventure-
wrong too.
The adventure, the beach, and the magic, like that's the kind of the foundation. That was the core and the birth of our relationship.
Mhm.
And I've had people comment like, wow, you guys are so different. And you guys, we just sometimes fight and get this passionate and this craziness, but you guys still have something worth fighting for.
Mm.
And we just have this foundation that stays there, and despite our differences and despite our grief and despite our struggles, that we just always come back to. And
I think the other thing that I would add is just being willing to forgive each other. I mean, that's crucial
Sure.
in any marriage for sure. And it's obvious and everybody knows it, but
it's hard.
Gratitude and
Yes.
forgiveness, huge.
yeah.
and not yeah
And
for me
forgiveness
it's
is not easy.
oh,
Forgiveness is hard,
yeah, it
especially
is.
when you learn that you need to do it not for the other person, because
Yes.
sometimes the other person just doesn't even give a shit, right? They're
Right.
like, I don't care if you forgive me or not. I don't think I
Right.
did anything wrong, but you're holding all that
right
negativity, and so it's really for the person who's doing the forgiving.
right
That was really hard for me to learn.
I kind of have a take on at least a summary of from some of the things that you said, in
Mhm.
that I love how you kind of feel like that the point of life is about connection. I mean,
Mhm.
we strongly believe that the point of life is about relationships and love and that kind of thing too. So it's all
Mhm.
kind of in that same deal.
Mhm.
And then you also mentioned how friends and family were a core integral part of your story.
Mhm.
And that's also relationships, not just couples.
right
So,
right
and it like, I don't know if we said it on the mic, but my dad passed away a week ago, and
Mhm.
they have this thing in the South they do called friends, and I don't know. It's like paying your respects, but you
Mhm.
open up your doors for the neighborhood, and they come around, and
right
it's kind of in the country. And my dad was he would just go. He knew a lot of people, and he loved networking. He loved talking. He was a born salesman, so a lot of people knew him. And they posted the announcement on Monday or Tuesday, or no, on the internet on Monday, and the allowing friends and family to come by was on Wednesday evening, and I think almost 100 people showed up, and none of us wanted to do it. I mean, my mom's like, I don't know who your father knew, and I don't know any of these people, and like he did, and he was in AA, and so he had a bunch of friends from AA that came, and
He knew
anyway,
everybody. It was like the guy from the post office and the
the bank
woman from the
president
bank and the
Mhm.
president of the bank, and then
Yeah.
everybody. The lady that works the grocery store that knew. It was just
Right.
cool. It was really cool.
But my point is that even though I didn't want to go, my brother didn't want to go, my mom didn't really want to go. We went down there, and about halfway through it, I realized this isn't for me. It's not for my mom.
Right.
It's not for Steve. It's for everybody else to be able to come
right
together and express their love together. And I mean, you couldn't be in that room and not smile, and not feel that joy. So it was, even though I didn't want to go, I think that's what it's really about. It's about allowing other people to express their love and show their love and give their gifts, like you said. So
right
I don't want to end before you guys tell us where you are now, because
Okay.
we've spent a lot of time kind
Right.
of talking about the past. But I mean, you guys have kids and you are doing different things. We talked a little bit
Mhm.
about your speaking,
Mhm.
but you guys have built a new life.
We've come a long way. It's
Yeah,
one of my favorite quotes from a man named Neil A. Maxwell goes, "The cavity carved by pain can one day become our receptacle for joy."
So beautiful.
And it's just carved so deep that when we look at the life we've built and the 2 children we've had since Lucy died,
Mhm.
and the job opportunities and the speaking, and we can just tear up with just a look, just trick-or-treating or hiking up a hill. That unspoken joy because of that deep pain is phenomenal. So
a different appreciation for some of the small things that are easy to overlook in life, but we recognize, wait, this is
this is the
This
stuff.
is the point.
this
This is
worth
what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So we had, right before Lucy passed away, I had just played the role of Peter Pan at the Egyptian in Park City. It's traditionally played by a woman. And Lucy was obsessed with all things Peter Pan. So when
Especially
Captain Hook,
which was a little disconcerting.
Like scary. She was scared, or she
No,
was like,
no.
"Yeah,
She's like,
Captain
oh,
Hook."
yeah, loved him.
She's like Dustin Hoffman, probably.
And my cute friend Mark, who played Captain Hook, came to the burial, and I was in conversations with him to have him come to her birthday party, her second birthday party as Captain Hook. And but as I was saying, I got pregnant. We got pregnant 6 or 7 weeks after Lucy died, and we had a little boy, and he's named Peter. And then 3 years later, we had a little girl that was due on Lucy's birthday.
Wow.
She came a few days early, which I'm grateful for. And her name is Zoey.
Oh, I was guessing Wendy.
Oh, I know. Zoey June. So they were both born in June.
Zoey means life.
Zoey means life.
I know, because I wanted to name our daughter that, but Pat said we had to go with something Irish. So I love that.
Spell it
Well,
the way I
Molly's
wanted to.
Irish.
Anyway,
Both of our kids are born in June as well.
Oh. So Lucy was blonde, Peter's brunette, and Zoe's a redhead.
Wow.
When we found out that it was going to be a little girl, I was so afraid that she would look like Lucy. And I was so afraid that she wouldn't look like Lucy. And Zoe
has her own hair.
Lucy's red-haired twin, and it's just perfect. And
that's awesome.
She is, yeah.
She's adorable.
I've seen pictures on the
almost 7 and 38 pounds of fiery, beautiful. She's kind of unreal. People just stare, and she's just this little sprite of. And so, yes, we talk about Lucy, Peter, and Zoe. She's in every family picture they draw. She's part of our story.
They're used to going to the
cemetery, which is right here in the avenues.
Which one do you?
The one up in
the one in the Avs?
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah, that's a beautiful cemetery.
And she's part of our family, and we still have our horrible, rough days. And
yeah, we were talking about getting through it, but it's not really, I don't think you ever really get through it, right? It's just navigating it day by day.
Yeah, my brain still is like, wait, I have a daughter. This happened. It's still just, you can't fathom it. But then there's other times I just live with it. I sit with it, and I am at peace with it. And I am in awe of it, of all of the people I've met because of it, and that I get to use my talents in this meaningful way and share her story. There's just so much poeticness to our story that there are so many stories. And
one of the comments that we hear a lot from people is that they, hug their children a little bit longer, a little bit harder. And to me, that just, it brings so much meaning and so much value to our experience and to Lucy's life. Because it's one of those things that helps people remember, okay, what is important to me? Yeah, these people here, this is what's important.
Yeah, cherish every moment. Be present.
Yeah. Well, Vic, Molly, thank you for being so open and honest and vulnerable. I knew this was going to be an amazing conversation when I asked you if you would do this, and it still exceeded any expectation I had of it. So thank you so much for being here with us.
Yeah, thank you for your bravery.
Yeah, you guys are fucking awesome. Right.
You're gonna make it. They're not gonna be able to play this in church. You're swearing, Sam. Your potty mouth.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, we didn't hit record.